In the lawless mining town of Devil's Creek, where human dignity was traded like poker chips, notorious gunslinger Jake Morrison inherited something that would change everything. The dying prospector's final bet left him with Celeste, a paralyzed black woman the town expected him to use for cruel entertainment. Instead of claiming his prize, Jake faced a choice that would force him to confront his violent past and the town's twisted expectations. Jake Morrison was about to discover that true strength meant protecting the defenseless, even if it cost him everything. Jake Morrison stood in Devil's Creek's main street, blood seeping through his shirt. His Colt .45 aimed steady at 3 men who'd come to take her back. The whole town watched from doorways and windows. Dust hung in the air like judgment. "She's not property." His voice cut through the silence. "She's my wife." The woman beside him sat straight in her wheelchair. A small derringer smoked in her steady hands. Her dark eyes held no fear. The 3 men lay motionless in the dirt. Jake swayed but stayed standing. The crowd stared in stunned silence. 6 months earlier, Jake had ridden into Devil's Creek, trailing his reputation like a shadow. Folks stepped aside when he walked. Children hid behind their mothers' skirts. He'd come to collect a debt from Bill Hawkins, an old prospector dying of fever in the back room of Murphy's saloon. The man's eyes burned with delirium when Jake entered. "You came." Hawkins coughed, blood speckling his lips. "Good. Got something for you." Jake waited. He'd learned patience from years of hunting men. "Poker debt." Hawkins fumbled with papers on his bedside table. "Can't pay in gold. Got something else." The deed he pressed into Jake's hand felt heavier than it should. "She's yours now, boy." The crippled one. "Town's been waiting to see what you do with her." Jake read the paper twice. A woman's name written in faded ink. Celeste. "Where is she?" Hawkins pointed toward the rear of the building. "Back room. Been keeping her there since her last owner died. Real entertainment, that one. Smart as a whip but can't walk. Town figures you'll put on quite a show." Jake folded the deed. "What kind of show?" "Whatever kind you want." Hawkins grinned with yellow teeth. "She's broke already. Might as well have some fun breaking her more." The old man died before Jake could ask more questions. Jake found her in a windowless room that smelled of damp wood and neglect. She sat in a makeshift wheelchair, her back straight despite everything. Books surrounded her like a fortress. Medical texts, law books, poetry. Her eyes met his without flinching. Intelligence burned there, sharp as winter wind. "So you're the new owner." Her voice carried no submission, only observation. Jake studied her face, high cheekbones, proud jaw, hands that moved with surgeon's precision as she closed a book. "What do you need?" he asked. The question hung between them like smoke. She tilted her head, measuring him. "That's not how this works." "How what works?" "You're supposed to tell me what you want. I'm supposed to provide it. That's what the deed says." Jake walked to the single chair and sat down. His spurs clinked against the floorboards. "I'm asking what you need." "Why?" He considered the question. Outside, he could hear the town gathering. Boots on wooden sidewalks, whispered conversations. They expected a show. "My sister died when I was 12. The words came without planning. "Fever took her. No doctor would come. Said we couldn't pay enough." Celeste's hand stilled on the book's cover. "You could have saved her." It wasn't a question, she nodded slowly. "Maybe, if I'd been there, if I'd had the right medicines." Jake stood. "I'll get you a proper room, food, whatever books you want. And then? Then nothing. You do what you want." Suspicion flickered in her eyes. "Men like you don't give without taking. Maybe I'm not like other men?" "Every man says that." Jake touched the brim of his hat. "I'll be back with your things." He left her there, surrounded by her books and her disbelief. The crowd had gathered outside Murphy's saloon. Judge Caldwell stood at the center, his belly straining against his vest. The man who controlled everything in Devil's Creek, from his self-appointed throne. "Well, Morrison?" Caldwell's voice boomed. "What's it going to be? The boys here have been looking forward to some entertainment." Jake counted 20 men, maybe more, their faces eager with the kind of hunger that fed on suffering. "Show's over," Jake said. Caldwell's laugh was harsh. "Come now, we all know what you are, what you do to things that can't fight back. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. I know you're a killer. I know you take what you want. And I know that girl in there has been waiting for someone to put her in her proper place." Jake's hand moved closer to his gun. Old habits. "Her proper place is wherever she chooses it to be." The crowd murmured. This wasn't the show they'd expected. Caldwell stepped forward. "You're going soft, Morrison. This town doesn't tolerate soft men." "Then maybe this town needs to learn tolerance." Jake walked away, leaving them with their disappointment and their whispers. He rented Celeste the cleanest room at the boarding house, bought her decent food, found her more books from the traveling merchant. She accepted it all with careful wariness, like a wild animal taking food from an outstretched hand. Days passed. Jake asked nothing of her, expected nothing. The town watched and waited for his true nature to surface. It never did. One evening he found her reading by lamplight, a medical journal spread across her lap. "Taught yourself?" he asked. "Had to. Knowledge is the only thing they can't take away." She looked up at him then, really looked. Some of the suspicion had faded from her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Jake sat in the chair across from her. "Because someone should have done it for my sister." "I'm not your sister. No, you're something better. You're still alive." That night, Celeste spoke her first words of trust. "I know about medicine, about healing." Her voice was quiet. "If you bring me supplies, I can help people. The sick ones, the hurt ones." Jake nodded. "What do you need?" This time, when she answered, it sounded like the beginning of something larger than either of them had imagined. The fever broke at dawn. The miner's son opened his eyes for the first time in 3 days. His mother wept against Jake's shoulder while Celeste checked the boy's pulse with practiced fingers. "Willow bark tea," she said quietly, "every 4 hours until the fever's gone completely." Jake nodded. He'd ridden hard to find the bark she needed. 20 miles through canyon country while the boy burned with sickness. Word spread like wildfire through Devil's Creek. The crippled woman and the gunslinger, healing where others had given up hope. More came. A rancher's wife with a broken arm. An old prospector coughing blood. A saloon girl with infected wounds that wouldn't heal. Celeste diagnosed. Jake gathered what she needed. Herbs from distant valleys. Medicines from traveling traders. Supplies that cost more than most folks earned in months. He never asked for payment. Neither did she. Judge Caldwell watched from his office window as Jake loaded his horse with medical supplies. The judge's face darkened like storm clouds gathering over the mountains. "She's making him weak," Caldwell told his deputy. "Man like Morrison needs to remember what he is." The deputy nodded. "What you want me to do?" "Nothing yet. But keep watching. Weak men don't last long in towns like this." Spring came early to Devil's Creek. The frozen ground began to thaw. Celeste spent her mornings in the boarding house garden, teaching children to read while their parents worked. Most parents refused, at first. Education was for rich folks, for people with futures. But hunger for knowledge ran deeper than fear. 1 child became 2. 2 became 5. Jake found timber from the abandoned mine shaft, salvaged nails from broken-down buildings, built a schoolhouse with his own hands while Celeste watched from her wheelchair. "You don't have to do this," she said one evening as he hammered boards into place. "Yes, I do." She studied his face in the lamplight, saw something there she hadn't expected, something that looked like hope. "Why?" Jake set down his hammer. "Because you asked for it. I never asked for anything. You asked to teach, to heal, same thing." The schoolhouse rose board by board. Window by window, Jake worked through rain and wind and the scorching heat of summer days. The town watched, some with curiosity, others with growing unrest. Judge Caldwell's daughter appeared one morning as Celeste arranged books on makeshift shelves. The girl was maybe 10 years old, eyes like her father's but without the cruelty. "Can you teach me to read better?" she asked. Celeste glanced toward the judge's house, toward the man who preached about natural order and proper places. "What does your father say?" "He doesn't know I'm here." The girl's honesty cut through Celeste like clean steel. She recognized the hunger there, the same hunger she'd carried her whole life. "Sit down," Celeste said. They worked through the morning, mathematics, literature, history that wasn't written by conquerors. When the girl left, she carried books hidden in her dress, knowledge smuggled like contraband. That evening, Jake sat beside Celeste on the schoolhouse steps. The sun painted the mountains gold and purple. Wind carried the scent of sage and distant rain. "Judge won't like his daughter coming here," he said. "I know. Could mean trouble. Everything we do means trouble." Jake considered this. "You afraid?" Celeste's hands rested steady in her lap. "Not anymore." Something shifted between them then, subtle as seasons changing. Jake felt it in the way she looked at him, in the way silence felt comfortable instead of heavy. He wanted to touch her hand, wanted to tell her things he'd never told anyone, but words felt clumsy compared to the work they shared, the lives they'd saved together. So he sat beside her and watched the sun disappear behind the mountains. Let the moment speak for itself. More children came. The blacksmith's twins, the baker's daughter, even some adults, embarrassed by their ignorance but hungry to learn. The schoolhouse filled with voices, with laughter, with the sound of minds awakening. Judge Caldwell's anger grew like a tumor. He spoke of corruption, of unnatural alliances, of the need to preserve order. His words found fertile ground in frightened hearts. Change always scared people more than staying broken. Jake noticed the stares, the whispered conversations that stopped when he approached, the way some folks crossed the street to avoid him. He'd seen it before, the moment when a town decided you didn't belong. "We should leave," he told Celeste one night. "No. They're organizing against us, against what we're building here." Celeste closed her book. "Then we fight. You can't fight from that chair." Her eyes flashed. "I've been fighting my whole life from this chair. You think I'm going to stop now?" Jake saw the steel in her spine, the fire that had kept her alive through things he couldn't imagine. "What do you want to do?" "What we've always done. Heal who we can. Teach who will learn. Build something worth defending." That night, Jake walked the perimeter of their small world. The schoolhouse stood like a church in the moonlight. Sacred ground built with calloused hands and stubborn hope. He checked his guns from habit, made sure the chambers were full. Some battles came whether you wanted them or not. In the morning, 3 riders appeared on the horizon, dust rising behind them like smoke signals. Jake watched them through his spyglass and felt his blood turn to ice water. Bounty hunters, the kind who specialized in retrieving lost property. Celeste saw his face when he lowered the glass. "What is it?" "Trouble coming. The kind that doesn't negotiate." She nodded like she'd been expecting this day since birth. "How long do we have?" "Maybe an hour. Then we better make it count." She wheeled herself toward the schoolhouse, toward the children who'd gathered for their morning lessons, toward the future they'd tried to build in this broken place. Jake checked his guns one more time, felt the familiar weight of them against his hips. The boy who'd wanted to heal was about to remember how to kill. The 3 bounty hunters rode into Devil's Creek like harbingers of winter. Their leader carried papers in his saddlebag, documents that looked official enough to fool most folks. Jake watched from the schoolhouse window as they dismounted at the saloon. Dust settled around their boots like judgment. Property retrieval, the leader announced to Judge Caldwell. Got papers here say we're looking for stolen goods. Caldwell examined the forged documents with theatrical care. Everything seems to be in order. The woman you seek is at the boarding house. His words carried across the street like poison on the wind. Jake turned to Celeste. She sat perfectly still among her students. A 10-year-old girl read aloud from a primer. The sound of learning continued despite the shadow that had fallen across their world. Keep teaching, Jake said quietly. Celeste met his eyes. Where are you going? To buy us time. He walked into the street as the bounty hunters approached the boarding house. His boots found their rhythm, the same cadence he'd used in a dozen towns before this one. You boys looking for something? The leader turned, a scarred man with yellow teeth and empty eyes. Got business here, Morrison. Official business. What kind of business? The kind that don't concern you. Jake stepped closer. Everything in this town concerns me. Not anymore. Judge Caldwell emerged from the saloon with half the town behind him. These men have legal documents. They're here to reclaim stolen property. The words hung in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. She's not property, Jake said. Papers say different. The bounty hunter smiled. Got bills of sale going back? Years. All legal and proper. Jake knew about forged documents, about men who made their living hunting people who'd tasted freedom. Let me see those papers. Don't think so. The bounty hunter's hand moved toward his gun. Think we'll just collect what's ours and be moving on. The town watched from doorways and windows. Some faces showed shame, others showed satisfaction at seeing the natural order restored. Jake counted odds. 3 professional killers against 1 reformed gunslinger. Not impossible, but not good. Morrison. Celeste's voice cut through the tension. She'd wheeled herself into the street. Students flanked her like an honor guard. Children who'd learned to read from her hands. Adults who'd found healing in her knowledge. Go back inside, Jake said. No. She rolled closer. The crowd parted before her like water before stone. You have something to say to these men? You can say it to both of us. The lead bounty hunter laughed. Well now, makes our job easier. Won't have to go hunting. Judge Caldwell stepped forward. By the authority vested in me by territorial law, I hereby order the return of this property to its rightful owners. I'm not property. Celeste's voice carried the weight of mountains. I'm a free woman, a teacher, a healer. You're whatever these papers say you are. Caldwell held up the forged documents like a weapon. Those papers are lies. Prove it. The challenge hung between them. In a world where might made right, proof was whatever the strongest man said it was. Jake felt the familiar weight of his guns. The old hunger stirred in his chest, the part of him that solved problems with lead and powder. But Celeste reached for his hand. Her fingers were steady against his palm. Not like that, she whispered. She looked at the crowd, at faces she'd taught and healed, at people who'd benefited from her knowledge and kindness. You know who I am, she said. You know what I've done for this town, for your children, for your sick and hurt. Some nodded, others looked away. Don't matter what you done, the bounty hunter said. Matters what you are, and you're coming with us. Over my dead body, Jake said. That can be arranged. The moment stretched tight as a bowstring, 3 guns against 1, the mathematics of violence playing out in heartbeats and breath. Then Judge Caldwell's daughter stepped from the crowd. She taught me to read, the girl said. Her young voice cut through the tension like a blade. She taught me numbers. She taught me that I could be more than what people expected. More children joined her. Then adults. The blacksmith. The baker. The miner whose son had nearly died of fever. They formed a circle around Celeste and Jake, Human shields built from gratitude and growing courage. "Stand aside," the bounty hunter ordered. "This don't concern you." "Yes, it does." The blacksmith's wife stepped forward. "She delivered my baby when the doctor wouldn't come, saved both our lives." "She set my broken arm," said the rancher's wife, when everyone else said it would never heal right. One by one they spoke, testimonies to healing and hope, to the difference one person could make when they chose compassion over cruelty. Judge Caldwell's face reddened. "This is mob rule. I won't have it in my town." "Your town?" The blacksmith spat in the dust. "When did you ever heal anybody? When did you ever teach a child to read?" The crowd rumbled agreement. The balance of power shifted like sand in an hourglass. The bounty hunters looked uncertain for the first time. They were used to taking people who had no one to defend them. This was something new. "Papers are legal," the leader insisted. "Law is law." "Then let's see what real law looks like," Jake said. He pulled out his own papers, the deed Bill Hawkins had given him months ago, the document that had started everything. "Says here she was given to me fair and square. Legal transfer of ownership." The bounty hunter examined the deed. His face darkened. "That paper don't mean nothing. Our claim supersedes yours. Prove it." Now it was Jake's turn to issue the challenge, to demand proof that might not exist. The lead bounty hunter's hand moved to his gun. "Don't need to prove nothing to you." "Yes, you do." Celeste's voice was quiet but absolute. "If you want to, take me. You'll have to go through all of them. Through this whole town, through him." She looked at Jake. "Through my husband." The word hit like lightning. Husband. A claim that changed everything. Judge Caldwell sputtered. "When did this happen?" "I performed no ceremony." "Yesterday," Celeste said without hesitation. "Private ceremony. Perfectly legal." Jake felt the lie settle between them like truth. Marriage would complicate the bounty hunter's claim, give them legal ground to stand on. "You got witnesses?" the bounty hunter demanded. Half the town stepped forward. The mathematics had changed. 3 killers against an entire community, against people who'd found something worth defending. The bounty hunters looked at each other, at the crowd, at Jake's steady hands hovering near his guns. "This ain't over," the leader said. "Yes, it is." Jake's voice carried the weight of finality. "You ride out now. You can leave breathing. You stay. You can leave in boxes." The old Jake Morrison spoke those words, the gunslinger who'd never backed down from a fight. The bounty hunters mounted their horses, rode out of Devil's Creek with their forged papers and empty hands. Judge Caldwell watched them go. His face was pale with rage and fear. "You think this changes anything?" he asked Jake. "Changes everything." That night, Jake and Celeste sat on the schoolhouse steps. Stars wheeled overhead like distant promises. "Husband," Jake said. It seemed like the right word. Was it a lie? Celeste considered this. Does it feel like a lie? Jake looked at her profile in the starlight, at the strength in her shoulders, the wisdom in her stillness. "No, it feels like the truest thing I've ever said." She turned to him then. "Then maybe we should make it official." "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." The wind carried the scent of sage and possibility, of futures that hadn't existed until this moment. "When?" Jake asked. "Now. Tonight. Before anyone can stop us." They found the preacher at his cabin, woke him from sleep and asked him to marry them by lamplight. No flowers, no fancy dress, just 2 broken people choosing to heal together. When the preacher asked if they would honor and protect each other, they both said yes. When he asked if they would face whatever came together, they said yes again. The words were simple. The commitment was absolute. They were married in the schoolhouse at midnight, surrounded by books and dreams and the promise of tomorrow. Outside, the wind whispered secrets to the sleeping town. Secrets about love that grew from ashes. About strength that came from choosing mercy over vengeance. About the way the world could change when two people decided to build something beautiful in a broken place. The bounty hunters returned at dawn with reinforcements. 6 men this time, harder faces, colder eyes, the kind who'd burn a town to collect their fee. Jake watched them from the schoolhouse window. Celeste sat beside him, hands steady on her book despite the storm gathering outside. "They brought friends," Jake said. "So did we." The town was already stirring. Men emerged from buildings with rifles. Women gathered children behind locked doors. The battle lines had been drawn in dust and determination. Judge Caldwell met the bounty hunters in the street. His voice carried across the morning air like a funeral bell. "She's in the schoolhouse. Barricaded herself in with that killer husband. Of hers." The lead bounty hunter spat tobacco juice into the dirt. Time to end this foolishness. Jake strapped on his gun belt for what might be the last time. Leather worn smooth by years of violence. Metal cold against his palms. "You don't have to do this," Celeste said. "Yes, I do. There's another way. Not for men like them. They only understand one language." Jake kissed her forehead, tasted salt and courage on her skin. "If something happens to me, you keep teaching. Keep healing. Don't let them win." "Nothing's going to happen." But her voice carried the weight of prayers more than certainty. Jake walked into the street. 6 guns against 1. The mathematics of death playing out in heartbeats and breath. Morrison, the lead bounty hunter, smiled with yellow teeth. "Ready to be reasonable?" "I'm reasonable. You boys can ride out now. Live to hunt another day." "Can't do that, got a contract to fulfill." "Contract's void. She's a married woman now, free and legal. Marriage don't change what she is. Changes everything." The bounty hunters spread out, professional killers taking their positions. Jake counted distances, angles, escape routes that didn't exist. Behind him, the schoolhouse door opened. Celeste rolled into the street despite his orders to stay hidden. "This ends now," she said. "Go back inside." "No." She positioned her wheelchair beside him. "We face this together." The bounty hunters laughed. "What's the cripple gonna do? Throw books at us?" Celeste's hand moved beneath her shawl, found the derringer Jake had given her. Small gun, deadly at close range. "I'm going to give you one chance to leave," she said. "Or what? Or you'll find out what happens to men who mistake mercy for weakness." The lead bounty hunter drew his gun. Enough talk. Time slowed to honey and molasses. Jake's hand found his Colt, muscle memory taking over where thought failed. The first shot came from his left. Jake spun and fired. The bounty hunter dropped like a stone. More shots. Jake dove right as bullets sparked off the schoolhouse wall, rolled behind a water trough. Wood splintered around him. Celeste's derringer cracked like thunder. One of the bounty hunters screamed and fell. Blood bloomed across his shoulder. "She shot me. The cripple shot me." Jake rose from cover. His Colt barked twice. 2 more bounty hunters went down. The remaining 3 scattered. Professional killers reduced to amateur cowards by unexpected resistance. Judge Caldwell drew a hidden pistol, aimed at Celeste's back while she reloaded her derringer. "This is for the natural order," he shouted. Jake's bullet took him in the chest. Caldwell fell backward into the saloon's swinging doors. The corrupt judge's reign ended in dust and justice. The last 2 bounty hunters mounted their horses, rode hard out of Devil's Creek with empty hands and wounded pride. Jake holstered his gun, looked at Celeste. She sat straight in her wheelchair, smoke drifting from her derringer like incense. "You hit your man," he said. "Told you I knew how to fight." The town emerged from hiding. Faces showed wonder more than fear. They'd witnessed something impossible. A community standing against corruption, winning through courage instead of cruelty. The blacksmith approached Jake. "Town needs a sheriff, someone who knows right from wrong." Jake looked at the badge in the man's hands. star-shaped metal that represented law instead of chaos. I'm not sure I'm the right man for that job. Sure, you are. You just proved it. Jake pinned the badge to his shirt, felt its weight like responsibility made solid. First order of business, he said. This town recognizes Celeste Morrison as our official teacher and medical practitioner. Applause echoed off wooden buildings, the sound of acceptance, of change taking root in barren ground. 6 months later, Devil's Creek had transformed. The schoolhouse overflowed with students. The clinic Celeste had established saved lives weekly. Jake kept the peace with words more often than bullets. They'd built something beautiful in a broken place. A wagon appeared on the horizon one afternoon, a family fleeing something behind them, the same haunted look Jake remembered from his own eyes. The man drove with slumped shoulders. The woman held a baby close. 2 older children huddled in the wagon bed. They stopped in front of the sheriff's office, hope warring with desperation on their faces. We heard this might be a place for folks looking for a fresh start, the man said. Jake stepped into the street. Celeste rolled beside him. They exchanged a look that held years of understanding. Depends, Jake said. You folks running from the law? Running from men who think they own us, think they can decide how we live. Jake nodded. He recognized the story, had lived it himself not so long ago. What can you do? I'm a carpenter. She's a seamstress. Kids are good workers. We need a carpenter. And Lord knows this town could use more folks who know how to make things instead of breaking them. Relief flooded the man's face. We don't have much money. Don't need much. Just need folks willing to be part of something good. Jake helped them unload their wagon. Celeste directed them to the boarding house, the same place where Jake had first given her a room of her own. That evening they sat on their porch, the house Jake had built with his own hands, the garden Celeste tended from her wheelchair. Another family saved, she said. Another chance to get it right. Think we're making a difference? Jake looked at the thriving town around them, at children playing in streets that had once known only violence, at the clinic where healing happened daily. I think we're proving something important. What's that? That broken people can build whole things, that mercy is stronger than cruelty, that love can grow anywhere if you tend it right. Celeste reached for his hand. Think it'll last? Long as there are people willing to choose kindness over fear. The sun set behind the mountains, painted the sky in shades of hope and promise. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new people needing refuge, new chances to choose right over easy. But tonight, they had this moment, this place. They'd carved from wilderness and defended with courage. The wind whispered through the schoolhouse windows, carried the sound of children's laughter, of healing hands at work, of futures being written one choice at a time. Jake Morrison had been a killer. Celeste had been property. Together they'd become something neither could have imagined alone. And that's how the meek inherited the earth, one small town at a time. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.